Hi everyone, welcome back from the tea break. I do hope that you have enjoyed the afternoon spread and you are now ready for the next round of breakout session. Please do check that you're currently at the correct venue as stated on your lanyard. We're here at stream 4 and for this particular stream, our breakout session will be focused on identification. There are 4 different presentations for us to look forward to, as can be seen on the slide. Many interesting topics coming right up about Chinese literacy assessment, perspective of adolescence through images, how cognitive and environmental factors affect spelling in Filipino children, and lastly, using drama as a tool to build social, emotional development of children with dyslexia. Before we proceed, once again, please be reminded about our online feedback. We would appreciate it if you take the time to proceed to do the feedback session at the end of this breakout session. Now that we are all ready, let's get the session going. Our very first speaker is Ms. Kong Yun Rei, a senior educational therapist at the DES with more than 4 years of experience in providing intervention for learners with dyslexia in both the English and Chinese language. Besides teaching, as the head of the Chinese program team, Ms. Yun Rei also conducts research in the area of learning difficulties in Chinese, profiling of students, curriculum development, and mentoring teachers. Currently pursuing her Masters of Education with the University of Hong Kong, she believes that language learning opens up the horizon of a child and it is vital to teach a child how to learn. She will be presenting her research on the reliability and validity of a Chinese literacy assessment for school learners in Singapore. Let us now put our hands together for Ms. Yun Rei.
Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, so I'm Ray. As Ashika has introduced, I'm the Chinese program manager at the DAS. Okay, so today I'm very glad to be able to share with you the findings of the research study that was done in collaboration between the National Institute of Education Singapore and the Dyslexia Association of Singapore. So in this study, what we did is that we examined the reliability and validity of a Chinese literacy assessment tool for school learners here in Singapore. So the million-dollar question here is this: why do we want to do a study like this? Okay, so first and foremost, the bilingual education policy is a key cornerstone of the Singapore education system. In other words, we are supposed to learn English as the first language, and the second language is based on our father's ethnicity. In this case, my dad is a Chinese, so I need to learn both English and Chinese. So in the case of learners with dyslexia, exemption from doing mother tongue may be granted due to their language learning difficulties. At the DAS, over the years, we have seen an increasing number of parents seeking help for their children who are having profound difficulties in the language. So while some were seeking for mother tongue exemptions, others were really trying to seek help and support for their children when it comes to learning the language. So what makes this task difficult and challenging is that, to the best of our knowledge, there is no current standardized Chinese literacy test in Singapore, and the tests that are being used in Hong Kong and Taiwan is not applicable to our setting because of the main language that's being used and the differences in script. So as you embark on this, we're really asking ourselves, how can we help our students? How can we better understand the difficulties students have when learning Chinese? And how can we support them? And most importantly, the question that we needed to answer is, what would be the most objective and evidence-based way we can go about doing this thing? So what we did is that we went through literature to show what kind of difficulties would learners with dyslexia have when it comes to learning Chinese. So a review of the literature shows that dyslexic children faces difficulties in both cognitive and literacy-related skills when learning Chinese. And that includes orthographic awareness, word recognition, morphological awareness, copying, spelling, comprehension. So orthographic awareness basically is a sublinguistic skill that underscores the recognition of print. In this case, can they identify words that are reversed or even non-words? So moving on, Young et al. In 2014 pointed out that word recognition is actually one of the major measures used in the screening and diagnostic tool to use to identify children with dyslexia in mainland China and in Hong Kong. So the word forming task is then used as a measure of their morphological awareness. Morphological awareness in Chinese refers to the awareness of homophones and also involves forming words with characters. So children with dyslexia were also found to be poorer in their spelling ability compared to peers of the same age. And next, as we all know, reading comprehension is definitely a higher order skill as compared to word reading. So while they can read, it does not mean that they can comprehend or fully understand what they've read. So from experience, I've seen students who are able to read a whole Chinese passage but yet was not able to answer any of the questions, probably because a lot of effort was used in decoding. So lastly, according to Lam et al., in that investigation of almost 1,000 students in handwriting performance, they found that learners with dyslexia wrote significantly slower with greater average character size and variation. So they also made more mistakes in their writing. They had missing strokes, and missing strokes were commonly observed as one of the writing errors as well. So in this study, we really wanted to find out, is this tool that we are going to use a reliable and a valid one for us to identify the difficulties that the student has. So based on the review of literature and battery of Chinese tests developed by Shen et al. In 2014, the tool is created with the intention of understanding the difficulties they face and to inform intervention support for students with low achieving or who are facing continual difficulties in learning the language. So in this study, for us to achieve our goals, we approached 4 primary schools and the DAS for students to participate in the study. So a total of 149 students were profiled with the Chinese literacy assessment tool, and of which 11 of them were known to have dyslexia. So they were also controlled for their age, gender, nationality, and ability. So as you can see from the screen, is a breakdown of the participants that we had. So the age of the students we were looking at are from 9 years 0 months to 11 years and 11 months. So as such, those that were below or above the range were taken out of the analysis. So this then allowed us to come up with age-appropriate standards of sorts that were based on the data that was collected. So as you can see, there is also a relatively proportionate distribution between boys and girls. And in terms of achievement, the bulk of the students were middle achieving, which is typical of how performance would be distributed normally. So it has also been noted that the sampling of the 11-year-olds could be better improved in terms of their distribution based on their achievement levels in school. So moving along, this tool that we came up with had a total of 6 components. It took about 75 minutes at max for each child. So there were 6 components in total, and besides these test tools, the researcher also had to document attention and behavioral difficulties, if any, were observed. So these components were arrived at based on the review of literature and the battery of Chinese literacy tests that were used as profiling at the DAS. So the selection of test items for orthographic awareness were based on real character with very low frequency, while the other test items were based on high frequency character and word lists published by the Singapore Centre of Chinese Language. So as you can see on the screen, the very first task, they were asked to make yes/no decision on whether these were words or these were non-words. So on the character reading task, they were then asked to read the word and then to form a word. So as you can see from the screen, the word there is "de." So they're supposed to read "de" and then form a word with it. 你的我的书包. And on the spelling task, they were given the word and then given a sentence so that there's a context for the correct word. So for example, it's given 我们去公园 我们. So they were supposed to write down the characters for 我们. There was also a reading comprehension task. On the reading comprehension task, they were given, there were a total of 8 levels, so they were given at the level that they are supposed to be at. They were asked to read, and then the questions were brought to them with a played recording, and they were supposed to answer verbally. And then they were also given 25 characters to copy. So with the data collected, we ran Cronbach we ran the results on using the Cronbach alpha. So the reliability of the data was established using the Cronbach alpha, which is widely used as a measure of internal consistency. So as you can see from the screen, the character reading, word forming, spelling, and copying tasks were found to be reliable measures on the Chinese literacy assessment tool. So this suggests that we could continue to use these test items as measures for what we wanted to measure, while reviewing the test items for the orthographic awareness and reading comprehension tasks. Okay, so moving along, given that the test items are reliable, the next question we need to ask is that, are these items also valid? Do they measure for what we want to measure in terms of their learning differences, age and ability, or their achievement level? So what we found is that the following test items were effective in differentiating learners with dyslexia and typical learners. So the character reading, the word forming, the spelling, the reading compre, and correct copying could effectively tell a student whether they are dyslexic or typical learner apart. Okay, and in terms of age, all except for correct copying were able to tell students apart in terms of their age. That means whether they were 9 years, basically the older they are, the better they perform on all these test items. Okay, and of course then the next question we also want to see is that whether this tool is valid in telling ability apart. Whether is it able to tell us whether the 9-year-old who is low achieving, middle achieving, and high achieving performing, whether the tool was able to differentiate students that were of the same age, whether they were low performing, middle performing, or high performing. So once again, all except copying time were valid in telling students apart. Okay, so besides ascertaining the reliability and validity of the tool, we then took a step further to look at the errors that the students committed when reading and spelling. So that these errors can actually be used to inform instruction and intervention. So in the interest of time, let's take a look at some of the more significant errors. Okay, so for the reading errors, the first one that we can see is the visual error. So what you see on the test are actually actual mistakes that students make. So the part in black is the target words, and the parts in orange are the mistakes that they were made. So visual errors, as you can see, are a result of characters looking very much alike. Okay, the word in black is yeah, and the word in orange is yeah. So they differ in just a stroke, but they are read differently and they mean totally different things. Okay, so and the next error that we saw was phonetic errors. So phonetic errors basically arise from misreading the character, and we know that because with word forming they were able to form the correct words, but they're just reading the character with the wrong sound. So in this case it should be zhou, but they read it as zhou. Okay, and semantic errors are those where characters occur frequently together in a word or are very closely related in terms of meaning. So in this case, in and yet is related to performance, to shows. So there was also such observations made of such errors. Okay, and the last one is tonal errors, where basically it refers to a wrong tone being assigned. In this case, yeah should be at the 4th tone, but the student read it as yeah, which is in the 3rd tone. Okay, so when looking at spelling error, when we looked at the spelling error, what we found was very interesting is that there were numerous instances of reversals. So when spelling, there are 2 kinds of reversal that was observed. First, the in-character reversal, where the radicals are swapped in position or they are mirrored. Okay, where you can see in the corner over there, where it should be the other way around. Okay, and there were also word reversals, where there are also word reversals where they substituted words. Okay, and there's also very commonly what we see is also missing strokes. So for example, the first character on top of the missing stroke is yen, and there's a missing horizontal stroke there. Alright, and of course there's also the semantic ones where the target word was 食物, which means food, but the students wrote 食动, where 动 and 物 always comes together as a word that means animal. Okay, so in conclusion, we found the Chinese literacy assessment tool relatively reliable and valid in certain measures in ascertaining the literacy difficulties learners have and can help us to differentiate students in terms of their learning differences, age, and ability. However, this is only but a pilot study where only about 50 students of each level was profiled. So the tool would need to be revised and repeated on a larger scale to reach more conclusive findings. There were also some limitations and observations made through the course of the study. So first and foremost, on the orthographic awareness task, the students were given a demo, did a few practice questions prior to completing the test. So there could have been a practice effect affecting the results we received. Okay, so future testing could consider removing the practice questions to see if the questions really measure what it's supposed to measure. Okay, we also observe a possible ceiling effect on the literacy task for the primary 5 students, especially for the high achieving ones. So this suggests that the task could have been too simple for them, as quite a number of the higher achieving primary 5 students were able to obtain a perfect score. So and as a result, the tool may not be so suitable to use for older students. Okay. We've also realized that teaching or learning characters in context is very important, as it appears that recognizing single characters is very effortful. So teaching in context would aid in retention of learning. So on the spelling task, what we noticed is that students that use strategies such as writing after listening to the whole question, they seem to have contributed to better performance on the spelling task. So while we teach students, we don't just stop at the parts of a word or the word itself, but we should bring it into sentence and paragraph so that it relates and builds up cognitive knowledge. Okay, and as a reading comprehension task, students were required to answer verbally. Okay, it allowed for a more objective gauge of their comprehension ability in the language. From practice, we see that students are able to cope with comprehension by matching words in the questions with words in the passage. So by doing it, by allowing them to listen to the question and verbally answering, that it prevented them from using coping strategies to find answers to the questions. And this then allowed us to have more reliable answers being collected. However, because the responses they gave were so varied, it was very difficult to score. So scoring our reading comprehension test items could be clearer in time to come. Or we could even consider maybe multiple choice questions. Okay, and on this study we had 149 students, probably increasing the sample size, especially those of middle ability, will probably also lend greater credibility to the findings of the study. Okay, especially with sampling with the 11-year-olds. Alright, and in time to come, a standardization exercise will really allow for a more objective tool for us to ascertain the difficulties students have in order for us to better inform intervention. So the whole endeavor of this study has proven to be a very labor intensive one, because we saw the students one-on-one and there's 149 of them. Okay, so if we could incorporate technology, it probably could lend to the effectiveness of running such a test. So the orthographic awareness test was actually computerized, which has allowed us to save time on the data collection, and has also allowed us to do it in a time setting. So if the other test items could be computerized, we could actually test more students, and it could also be a more objective gauge. The handwriting tool that was done in Hong Kong actually used technology to analyze the handwriting, which currently we do not have access to. And we also hope that in times to come, that our findings will continue to inform teaching and for us to develop instructional guidelines. So this whole study would not have been achievable without the support given to us. So we would like to thank the professors from NIE, Mr. Li Xiang and Mr. Ashra from DAS, the schools that participated, and of course our research assistants and our friends that really gave us the 110% the journey with us the whole way. So If you have any questions, that's Dr. Tan's contact and my contact. Yeah, with that, thank you.
That was a very informational presentation about the Chinese literacy assessment from Ms. Yun Rui. So we would like to invite Ms. Fanny Fu to present a token of appreciation to Ms. Yun Rui.